Roar!
Ew!
Hello and welcome to Midnight Readings. Today we'll be reading The Night Watcher's Red Tape, written by Light of Triumph. Hope you all enjoy! Pinkie Pie sat, twiddling her hooves as the stern pony looked over her file. She had never done a job interview before, so this was a new and frightful experience for her. She had taken a job at Sugarcube Corner when she was just 16, but Cup and Carrot Cake had taken her in because she had moved out of her parents' place, and quite literally was starving to death. Baking was her favourite way to make people smile, so eventually she wanted to start her own bakery. And while she was sure that the cakes would give her a loan if she asked for one, she didn't want to do it like that. She wanted to make her own money and make her family proud. The Pie family had always been hard workers. Her mother and father had started a rock farm when they were very young, and broke their backs making it profitable. They raised 4 girls, each one of them was a handful in their own way. Maud was the largest one of the entire family, and she knew that she wasted no time in showing it. Marble was terminally shy, and it caused problems throughout her life and schooling. Limestone was, for lack of a better term, a hard ass who never took any nonsense, whether it be from her parents, her sisters, her friends, or any poor fool who tried to haggle and the rock farm. And Pinkie had never made it easy for her parents since she had left the nest. She was always hyperactive, never calm unless she was unconscious, and she spoke very, very quickly. But no one could say she didn't work hard at what she did. Despite her seemingly carefree attitude, no one could call her lazy. She put that on the written application for this new job she was trying out for. This was an odd job for her to take. At least, it seemed that way on the surface. She had never really shown interest in joining the Guard beforehand, but it did make sense. She had defended Equestria with her friends several times in the past, and she had a decent enough head on her shoulders, despite coming off as bubbly-headed or ditzy. She was fairly strong, a talent that came with being an earth pony, and she had a good head for ponies, as she was able to befriend anyone within a matter of seconds. So becoming a glorified cop made sense, didn't it? So she asked Shining Armour if she could be a guard. He said there was a lengthy application process, but it could happen. Given her schedule, however, she would have to apply for the Night Watch. That fell under the jurisdiction of one Starless Night, a Thestral, or Bat Pony as the common colloquialism had it, who served as Shining Armour's nighttime counterpart, the captain of the Thestral Night Guard. Pinkie's first impression of this mare, when she sat down for an interview with her, is that she was intense. When Pinkie described Starless Night to her friends, she called her the exact middle point between her sisters Maud and Limestone. An unflappable, stone-faced bat pony who kept her patience on a very thin thread. She made it very clear from her expression that she would ruin you if you were in her unit and stepped out of line. Her eyes were the kind of burning yellow that left a scorch mark on your soul. She could narrow them to a mere sliver and scrutinize every inch of you. Her blue coat was just the right amount of soothing to make you forget that murder was potentially standing 5 feet away from you. Her jet black mane was held back in a tight braid that fell down her left shoulder. She looked as if she could easily subject any poor fool who went up against her to the worst kind of pain. For Pinkie, it was no different. She pulled out her most ruthless variety of torture, making her sit there for over 20 minutes. Pinkie was never one to be patient, and she thought it wouldn't look too professional to bounce around on the room with her abnormally springy tail. But it was hard. If Pinkie could harness the energy she stored within herself, she could power Canterlot for over 1,000 years. So sitting there as Starless Night meticulously went through her file was abject agony She could feel herself fidgeting constantly. She wondered if Starless noticed. "You know, if you keep shaking like that," Starless said, in a calm, unbroken tone, "you're going to vibrate through the floor, and the repairs for that comes out of your tax money." That broke Pinkie Pie.
"Listen, Captain Knight,"
Pinkie said frantically, speaking progressively faster with each word that exited her lips.
"I know I don't have much experience in the guard work, and I know I can be a little hyper at times, but if you give me a chance, I'm sure I can bring a lot of fun back to the Night Watch, and you guys certainly need it. Sheesh, the ones I've met are smiling all the time, and that's really...
Pinkie was shut up quickly when a dark blue hoof covered her mouth. "You know, it's kind of amazing," Starless said calmly. "I have never seen anyone so unqualified for this job, yet so overqualified at the same time. You've defeated monsters I wouldn't try to take on in my ditziest daydreams. You've hobnobbed with both princesses. You are the element of laughter of all things hooved and holy, and yet you've never had a paying job more successful than the rock farmer. You're not very focused, and you've got a little problem with excess energy."
"Really?"
Pinkie asked sincerely.
"I hadn't noticed."
"The fact that I honestly can't tell if you're screwing with me scares me a little bit," Starless replied. "Everything seems to be in order here. All right. I honestly can't tell if I'm doing this because I think you would do a decent job at it, or if I'm just doing this because I want to see what happens. But I'm leaning towards hiring you." Pinkie stood on one leg, blowing a noisemaker as confetti sprung out from apparently nowhere. A loud squeak echoed throughout the room. "But," Starless Knight said quickly, "there are a few things I'm going to need to ask you first. A little aptitude test. Ready?" Pinkie sucked the confetti back into whatever nether realm it sprang from, and nodded intensely at Starless Knight, ready to take any questions she had, and give back a precise answer. That was, of course, Pinkie Pie's version of a straight answer, so total and abject madness. "All right, so we start with a really dumb one," Starless said, looking down at her forms. Describe yourself in one word."
"Pink,"
Pinkie Pie said, immediately. Starless gazed at Pinkie Pie with a 1,000-yard stare of a mare who had been through all of this nonsense before and knew very long interviews when she saw one. "Well," she said quietly, "that's certainly apt. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?"
27.
Pinkie nodded. "I'm sorry, what?" Starless obviously didn't want to ask, but did anyway out of some kind of reflex action to hearing nonsense.
"Well, you see, I'm 22 now," Pinkie explained. "In 5 years, I should be 27. Although my birthday is in a month, so I guess I'll say I'm almost 28, which I guess makes me almost 22 now, so..."
Right, stupid of me to ask," Starless Knight said, and meant it. "How much experience have you had with the higher tier magic?" Pinkie's mind boggled at the dozens of otherworldly terrors she could have told Starless about, and the excruciating details she could go into, but she decided that it was best to just keep her answers simple.
"Lots,"
she said. The next few words fought like demons to stay inside Starless Knight's throat. "Dare I ask what kind?" she said nervously. Pinkie figured that the best answer to this question would be to start from Nightmare Moon and work her way up to the really insane stuff. She took a huge inhale of breath because this was going to take a while. "You know, scratch that," Starless said quickly. "I just need to know if you've ever come close to destroying the town." Pinkie stared at Starless Knight awkwardly, as a version of thousands of clones of herself trampling across the streets of Ponyville, causing devastation and havoc in their bouncy, squeaky wake. "On purpose," Starless added.
"No."
"Good," Starless nodded. "If you could refrain from doing whatever it is that was, for the love of the 4 alicorns, don't tell me, I think you'll do just fine. You're hired. Or enlisted, I should say." Pinkie did the squeaking noisemaker confetti jump again. She earned it this time. "Okay, all we need to do now is cut through some red tape." Starless smiled. She bent down under her desk to fetch the forms for her new recruits. "I honestly don't know why they do this. Most of these things just get filed away in some underbelly somewhere, where some poor bureaucrats dust it. No, Pinkie," Starless pinched the bridge of her nose and sighed when she saw Pinky with a giant pair of scissors as she came up from behind the desk. I just need you to sign a few forms. We don't have to literally cut through anything. Pinky nodded, shoved the scissors back into her mane, disappearing into wherever she puts things. Starless shuffled around the forms, sorting through them for a bit before coming up with the first form Pinky needed. First off, health insurance, Starless explained. We tend to get pretty banged up on this job, so you should be protected. It takes a little cut out of the paycheck, but trust me, it is absolutely worth it. Pinky shrugged. That seemed to make sense. She took the form and signed it in all the boxes that she needed to. Second off, Starless said, taking out another form. Recognition of armor. Look, I don't like the idea of a bunch of strainers taking my measurements either, but it's what we're stuck with. Again, it made sense to Pinky, so she signed where she needed and filled out the relevant information. Starless Knight nodded. Okay, last up is the Thestral transformation form. She smiled. Schedule it for when you aren't going to have anything else to do. Trust me, the procedure can utterly destroy you for the day, if you aren't careful. So get it done, go home, and just sleep for the rest of the day. You should be fine after 24 hours, but it's gonna be a tough that first day. Pinky was about to shrug and sign that next form, but then she finally heard what Starless had just said.
I'm sorry, Thestral transformation?
Pinky repeated.
As in, you want to turn me into a bat pony?
Starless gave a look like someone had caught her tearing up a bad romantic novel in her room. Shining armor, forgot to tell you, she surmised. Thanks, Cap. You sure made it easy for me. It's not like this entire interview was just turned awkward. Yes, Thestral transformation is part of the job, required for every recruit. About 1,000 questions raced through Pinky's head all at once. It was true she had never seen a Night Watch pony who wasn't a Thestral, but she just assumed they were all born like that. It never occurred to her that it would be some kind of transformation. Eventually, she settled on the first question she needed to ask.
Why in Equestria do I need to do that to join the Night Guard?
Simple, Starless Knight said, leaning forward as she was giving an explanation she had given 12 times before. We work at night. We were originally banded together by Celestia 1,000 years ago to take on Nightmare Moon should she ever return. Now we're under Luna's command. Funny how things work out. Either way, the principle is the same. Leathery wings to fly silently. Heightened night vision, excellent hearing, all of which are perfect for spotting and catching things in the dark. It makes you a more efficient guard.
So, why don't you just recruit natural-born bat ponies?
Pinky asked.
This seems all kind of, I don't know, mad science-y.
Well, first off, there are discrimination laws in this country, Starless said, smiling. But even if it weren't, it would still be impossible to fill our ranks. The Thestral strain is a very rare recessive gene found in Pegasi family lines. On average, only about 50 ponies a year are born Thestrals, and that is in the entire world. In order for us to fill out any sort of new recruitment goal, we'd have to draft every single natural-born Thestral on the planet, either at birth or when they hit recruitment age. And that just isn't right on a number of levels.
Look, it's not that I'm prejudiced or whatever, Pinky said quickly. You can ask Princess Twilight. I'm friends with absolutely every pony. It's just that a friend of mine turned into a bat pony once, and well, it didn't work out so great.
Went feral, right? Starless said, nodding as if she'd heard this before. Completely mindless, hissing like a rattlesnake, afraid of light.
And sucking the juice out of apples with her fangs, yeah.
Pinky said, remembering the altercation with Flutterbat all too well. And I assume that this was some kind of magical accident, right? You were casting some kind of spell on a few bats and it backfired?
Hit the nail right on the purple horned head.
Not an uncommon occurrence, trust me, Starless Knight said, shaking her head. Our form of transformation is different. We have 7 of Luna's personal mage unicorns cast a spell all at once, when the moonlight hits you just right. The transformation takes hold all at once, no gradual progression like what I assume happened to your friend. You keep your mind and your sanity. You feel like crap on the day after, but you stay sane.
Oh, well, at least now it doesn't sound mad sciencey,
Pinky said with a note of genuine relief.
Now it just sounds vaguely culty, which is, I don't know, better I guess?
Pinky, We're an ancient order of knights with roots that go back thousands of years, Starless explained. We were built to stop an ancient evil, and we turn ourselves into bats in order to combat the evil of the night. Everything we do is kinda culty. Pinky nodded, and then she realized something. She wasn't bolting for the door. She had heard what she needed to do to get this job, and she was still considering doing it. Why? Why was she thinking of going through with this? Was it just because she was curious? Did she think it would be fun? Was there some darker side of her that wanted to visit the more experimental side of magic? Was this the same impulse that made her use the legendary mirror pool? This causing near destruction to her whole hometown? No, this was something more basic. An impulse she didn't often give into. But it was there, and right now, it was this thing on Pinky's mind.
Alright, so that's the catch,
Pinky said.
What's my starting salary?
750 bits a week, Starless said frankly. We actually get paid more than the day guard of the same rank because the work we do is more dangerous at night. You can thank my old CEO for negotiating that one.
Okay,
Pinky said thoughtfully. That was a little bit more than she was making at Sugar Cube Corner. Not a bad salary.
Benefits? I know I just signed the insurance stuff, but how much does that cover?
Any damage you take on the job, we will cover, Starless said, nodding. For the damage you take off the job, that depends on you. If you decided to purposely run face first into a mountainside because you thought it would be funny, we're not going to cover you for being insane. Oh, and full dental. Take it from me. Fangs can be tricky. Pinky nodded again. She'd have to be careful off the job from now on. It was not as if she would be purposely running herself into a mountainside. But she did, in regular occasions, fire herself out of a spring-loaded cannon. She had to be careful where she aimed from here on out.
This transformation,
Pinky said, not wanting to offend anyone with her next question, but she really needed to ask it.
Is it reversible? I mean, if I get fired or have to quit for some reason, and I don't like being a bat pony, can I change back? Or is this something I'm stuck with for the rest of my life?
You'd be stuck with it for about a year, Starless explained. The ritual to change you back can only happen when the moon is in the same position that it was when you transformed the first time. I don't know the details, that's the mage's job. Point is, a year and a week. And we can't ask Luna to move the moon into that position sooner, because it might screw with other ponies' transformations. Plus, the princesses take the work very seriously. They probably wouldn't take kindly to us shifting the moon around to help some pony quit their job. Pinky bit down on her hoof, unsure what to do next.
I'm still on the fence, I've got to be honest,
she said.
I mean, this is a really big decision. I made you think about it.
I completely understand, Starless said, raising her hooves. The offer won't be going away anytime soon. I'll call you in 3 days. That should be enough time to think it over. I hope you'll join us, if for no other reason than to eat the cake they serve at the new recruit party that my husband makes. I don't know what it is about that, but it's freaking ambrosia.
Give me the form,
Pinky said immediately.
When can I start?
Later that day.
Starless was absolutely right. That cake was delicious,
Pinky explained to her friends.
And those night guards are some of the nicest ponies you'll ever meet. And those mages look scary at first, but they're actually really fun. During the ceremony, they kept cracking jokes that were really funny. It did make me kind of nervous that they would make some mistake, but it worked out fine.
Twilight Sparkle, Rarity, Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy, and Applejack stared at Pinkie Pie. With their pointy, fuzzy ears, reddish eyes, fangs, and leathery wings. And each one of them had to pick their jaw up off the floor.
What?
Said Pinkie.
What's wrong? Something on my face?
Ah, Pinkie. You're always a fun one to play. And I hope you all enjoyed this. That was The Night Watch's Red Tape by Light of Tantrum. Or Triumph. Whoops, Triumph. I really enjoyed this story because it's interesting to think about. First off, Pinkie joining the Night Guard is an interesting story in itself, but also the whole process, the idea of how it would work. And if all the Night Guard are Thestrals, and we don't see them walking around normally, it makes sense that they would actually be magically created. So, overall, I'm quite impressed. I am quite impressed. This is a very good story. So, I hope you all enjoyed this, and I'll see you all next time. Keep watching that moon. And a howling thank you to my Patreons.